One. Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Texas Behavioral Health Executive Council meeting. It is August 28th at 9:05 a.m., and I'd like to call this meeting to order. Daryl, could you certify that we have a quorum, please?
We do. We have Chair Brown on the line, Mr. Belimowitz, Dr. Fletcher, Chair Canseco, and Chair Christofferson on the line. So that's 5. That gives us a quorum.
And Jennifer Smotherman.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, and Chair Smotherman.
Yeah,
Madam Chair, would you like me to call roll?
Yes, please.
Good morning.
Good morning, Tamala.
Gloria Canseco.
Present.
Sarah Abraham. John Belimowitz.
Present.
Timothy Brown.
Present.
Steve Christofferson.
Present.
Dr. Susan Fletcher.
Present.
George Francis. Ben Morris. Jennifer Smotherman.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. We will go to the public comments section next. And Daryl, if you don't mind walking us through that.
Sure. Okay. The way we'll handle, ladies and gentlemen, out in the audience, the way we'll handle the public comments is how we've done it in the past. If you've logged in via computer, use the raise hand feature. I will then go down the list and allow and unmute those who have their hands raised. After I've completed everybody, or after everybody with their raised hand has been allowed to do public comment, I'll go through the list of telephone callers and unmute them and allow them to speak as well. Per the agenda, you've got 3 minutes, so just be mindful of the time. Mr. Hyde, our general counsel, is going to be keeping time for us. So with that, Madam Chair, the first one up, it looks like, is Alyssa Karsagi.
Ms. Karsagi?
Yes, hi, can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, why? Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you today. My name is Elisa Karsagi, and I was recently informed by the TSBP that my complaint against custody evaluator Dr. Kim Arredondo has been transferred to this council for resolution. I've spoken at many of the council meetings as well as at numerous board meetings. During one of the council meetings, a statement was read which indicated that the council is not responsible for the outcome of custody evaluations, and those of us present were told to contact the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. I did in fact reach out to the State Commission on Judicial Conduct and requested to speak with someone in a supervisory capacity who could better assist me in following your instructions. I'll now play for you the voicemail response that I received, in which I was clearly told that the State Commission on Judicial Conduct is not only not responsible for disputed outcomes regarding custody evaluations or custody evaluators, but that the appropriate avenue is through a state licensing board, which, as I just mentioned, transferred all complaints to this newly formed Behavioral Health Executive Council. This is that voicemail.
Hello, Ms. Karsagi. This is Ron Bennett with the State Commission on Judicial Conduct.
I'm not hearing anything, folks.
Is in the Texas Constitution and custody evaluators. Position I'm not that familiar with. To me, like if you have a complaint against a custody evaluator and their psychologist, then you would go to that board that investigates psychiatrists. I don't know. Judges, and I'm sorry they referred you to us. Again, this is Ron Bennett, Judicial Conduct.
In conclusion, in light of this confirmation from the State Commission on Judicial Conduct that this council is in fact the proper avenue for addressing these issues, I must again implore the Behavioral Health Executive Council to act in regards to the unethical and fraudulent custody evaluations that have been performed by custody evaluators such as Dr. Kim Arredondo. Many of those who are speaking here today are not speaking out against an evaluator's opinion or against custody evaluators in general. We are speaking out against the deliberate and unethical actions of a few. the inappropriate relationships that these individuals have, who have not been held accountable for their multiple ethics violations, which have resulted in abusers gaining sole custody and continuing to perpetrate domestic violence by proxy against protective parents and their children. As concerned members of the public, we are calling on you, this newly formed BHAC, to have the integrity to act and to do what no other agency before you has done. Your action or inaction speaks volumes about your ability to protect the public. Now is the time for the accountability that so many of us have patiently and persistently pleaded with you to provide. We will continue to speak out until there is action and resolution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Karsagi. I'd like to recognize Sarah Abraham, a council member who has just been able to join us. Thank you. Go ahead, Daryl.
Next is Hannah Faulkenberg. Ms. Faulkenberg, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Excellent. Thank you so much. My name is Hannah, and I am a management consultant in the Dallas area. I've known Alyssa Karsagi for over 13 years and just want to take a moment to thank you for your dedication and commitment to our public safety. I'm here today on behalf of Ms. Karsagi, Ms. Patrick, and Ms. Craig's children because I believe the safety of a child is worth fighting for. I'm here because I believe that you as an executive council have both the authority and desire to do the right thing by holding those who create flawed custody evaluations accountable. I'm calling on you to intervene and hold the TSCEP board accountable for their responsibility to protect the public by revoking Dr. Arendondo's license. Alyssa's children tragically represent just 2 young lives who will be forever altered by a traumatic childhood of physical, emotional, and sexual abuse as a result of Dr. Kim Arendondo's involvement. Dr. Kim produced a biased report with false data that has placed Alyssa's precious boys and many others in danger, trapping them in an endless cycle of domestic abuse. One might try to justify this particular incident as an unintentional mistake on Dr. Arendondo's part, except for the many other cases she has been involved with, all of which have an eerily similar story of domestic abuse. Those stories cannot be ignored. In Alyssa's case, Dr. Arendondo's license has allowed these children to be placed in the custody of a man who has held a gun to his head in front of both Alyssa and her children. Dr. Arendondo is the reason that these young boys are with their father, whose abuse is evident on their little bruised bodies every time Alyssa is allowed to see them. These children cry and beg not to go back to their abusive father. And despite this evidence of continued abuse, Dr. Arendondo's license is continually cited as primary evidence that gives the process the power to continue putting these children in danger. There is an inherent bias in custody evaluations which allow these situations to happen. And while I agree with what Alyssa said that this is not true of all custody evaluators, it is that small subset of custody evaluators like Kim Arendondo that this board needs to hold accountable for cases like this. I am here today asking you who have the authority to protect the children, the safety of these children, to intervene and hold Dr. Arendondo accountable for this injustice. Evaluating a child's long-term safety is a very, very serious issue, and Dr. Kim must be held accountable for doing her job, which she has failed, and that is to protect the most vulnerable among us. I'm sure that that if your child was being abused, there is nothing between heaven and hell that would stop you from fighting for that child's safety, and that is exactly what Alyssa is here to do today. It is unthinkable that this board would allow child abuse to continue legally when they have the authority to stop it by holding custody evaluators like Kim Arendondo accountable. Some may say that there are current rules in place for the custody evaluation complaint process. I ask you, if regulations for custody evaluators are truly sufficient, how is it possible that children continue to be legally placed in abusers' homes as a direct result of these evaluators' reports? This is not justice. As protectors of the public, we cannot accept this as sufficient. In conclusion, Dr. Arendondo has failed her job by failing to protect the most vulnerable among us. It is now up to you to protect them. I ask you, please intervene and rescue these children by holding Dr. Arendondo accountable. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next is Elizabeth. I'm going to butcher this last one, but Vashiri. Miss Vashiri or Vasiri?
Elizabeth Vetchery, yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the privilege to speak before this board, this newly formed board. I recognize many of the faces from the past board meetings that I've been able to attend over this year, thanks to our current situation. I am here on behalf of my friend Alyssa Karsagi. My sister Hannah is the one you just heard speak, my younger sister. Alyssa is someone that me and my 6 younger siblings have known for many, many years. She helped raise many of us for most of our life. I speak to her character. It's just unthinkable, the current situation that is happening, that anyone would doubt that she is a good mother who cares about her kids. As many of you have repeatedly heard her complaints, I'm sure you can understand. As my sister just said, you know, if your children were going through the same situation, there would be nothing that you would do that would not stand in your way, that you would try to advocate for your children's safety. And that is exactly why we're here right now. I never in my life imagined that a situation like this would be possible and legally possible in the United States of America. And as I've attended many board meetings this past year, it has shocked me to hear the stories of so many families, and it has saddened my heart. And I can't imagine that that does not speak to you in some way as well, that there is legally ways for children to be ripped away from parents who care about them and placed in homes where they are endangered every single day. As far as I understand it, that's exactly the reason that these boards are formed, and that's exactly the reason we have these rules in place, is to prevent these situations from happening. So that is why we are here before you with this appeal to review the cases for Kim Arredondo, look into the situations, dig a little deeper, see what's really happening here. This is not the norm, but the exception to the rule. And that's what we want to bring attention to. That this is something that should not be happening, and this is the reason that you, the board, are here to oversee these things and make sure that justice actually does happen and is not twisted and manipulated in ways that it should not be, that does not protect the children. I'm here on behalf of the public interest, on behalf of the children. I can't even imagine the irreparable damage that's being done in not only Alyssa's children's lives, but many other children who are being placed in these situations every single day. As mental health issues are being brought more to light, not only are mental health issues going on here, but physical issues as well. And it's just horrific to think that we're allowing this to happen on our watch. So, as the board, again, thank you for the opportunity to speak before you today, and we plead with you to review the cases of Dr. Kim Arredondo, and as you see fit, revoke her license so that children are not further being harmed under the guise of justice. That is not justice. Please, we plead with you to bring justice in these cases and protect the children. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Next is Stephanie G. Stephanie, can you hear us?
Yes. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
All right. Good morning. I just want to reiterate my concerns, as well as other speakers here so far, about investigations. My complaint against a forensic psychologist, Alyssa Sherry, joined many others, and like others, mine was also dismissed. During this time, staff never provided any substantive information at any point and didn't reach out to me for follow-up. I think it took a little over a year. The sheer number of unrelated complaints against this psychologist is cause for alarm. Despite being investigated for years, Alyssa Sherry has never been disciplined. there's a clear pattern of misconduct that was not addressed by the Board of Psychology. I'm perplexed. How can almost 20 people, there are more who did not report Dr. Sherry due to fear of retaliation or just a lack of faith in the process of the Board of Psychology. But how can this many people in totally unrelated cases report the same psychologist and the Board of Psychology dismisses them all? It's utterly baffling. I don't know if it's due to inadequate regulations or mandates, incompetence, possibly agency protecting its licensees or something else, but whatever it is, it's troubling. I encourage you bad apples, unscrupulous forensic psychologists, and how complaints or why complaints are being routinely dismissed. Tragically, there are similarities between which is an unconscionable power and power, both apart, sometimes permanently. All recognize a bad apple, just to perform operations and diagnoses. Question: I hope through a full audit, why is this happening, and how can this aid question? I others hope that you will take this issue more seriously, because the common goal, both professionals like, is that psychologists provide services with integrity and do not abuse their power. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Jim Craig, Mr. Craig, you have public comment?
Yes, I do. And thank you so much for the opportunity to speak in front of this new board, newly formed board here in regards to some issues that we've been trying to get addressed through the old board. I'm just privileged to be able to speak in front of all of you today. So thank you so much. I'd first like to introduce, actually there's two of us here. Susie Patrick is with me on the same Zoom call in, and myself. I'd like to see if there's an opportunity for her to speak for maybe just about a minute. And then I've got a very short video just to play. It'd take maybe 30, 40 seconds. And then I'd like to finish up with my comments, if that would be acceptable to the board, please.
Yeah, I think that'll be fine.
Wonderful. Okay, I'll introduce Susie Patrick first.
Mr. Craig, you'll just need to tell me when you want to play the video, because I'll have to change your status from an attendee to a panelist before you can do that.
You can change it either right now or right after Susie Patrick's short comments here.
Okay, I'll change it after.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak before this newly formed board. I have spoke several times before the old board and value the opportunity to speak before you today. My name is Wanda Patrick. Everyone calls me Susie. I've been informed by the TSBEP that my complaint has been transferred to this board and that you're responsible for determining the outcome of my formal complaint. I'm speaking to implore you to hold Dr. Kim Arredondo, accountable for the unethical actions, inappropriate relationships, and fraudulent study evaluations, which have continued to result in children being left in the custody of abusive parents. We are asking you to take a stand on behalf of the public rather than protecting your own, and to instead choose to hold your licensees accountable and to revoke the psychology license of Dr. Arredondo. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak in front of you.
Mr. Craig, you should be able to turn on your video now and show us your video. Mr. Craig,
Yes.
you should be able to turn on your video now and show us the video.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Craig, we can't hear anything that's going on.
You cannot?
No, sir.
Okay, roll it down.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
You cannot hear the video. That's odd. Okay. Let me just explain this video really fast, and then I'll just follow up with some quick comments, and if that's all right with you then, sir.
Go ahead.
Okay. This is a video that was done by Shane Patrick, who is the son of Wanda Sue Patrick, Susie you just spoke with. And he is explaining his issues with Dr. Kim, that he has been forced to stay with his dad as well too through an abusive relationship. He's lived through cigarette burns on his body. He's lived through bite marks on his body. He's spent time having to watch his dad have sex in front of him, all through the court system. And the only thing that's kept him with his dad is Dr. Kim Arredono's report. Because of Dr. Kim Arredono's report, none of Susie's evidence has ever seen the light of day, ever. They've only used her report. And my concern and my pleading to the board is this. I understand that not all psychologists are bad. The majority of them, 99.9%, are amazing, and they're very effective and they're very helpful. But for the few bad apples, just like the few bad police officers out there that are doing bad things too, these people need to be held accountable. Susie first submitted her report with all the evidence to the board back on September 9th, 2019. She's yet to hear any response back. She's heard none of her witnesses have ever been contacted. And we're wondering just what is the process that this new board will take, and what kind of promises can we get, guarantees from this board can we get that this and other issues, these other people will be actually truly investigated. Just have a lot of this work put on someone's desk and let it sit there for a while, and then summarily be dismissed. But we want to see what kind of action can we expect from this board, and what kind of response back and communication can we get in response to each and every one of these complaints. If some of these complaints fall on because there's no evidence, I get that. It's not an issue. But I can promise you in this particular case, there's plenty of evidence, not only in this one, but also with Dr. Kim Arredondo, but also with Alyssa Karsagi's report too. And I really do truly want to see some true investigative follow-up and accountability from this board back to the parents in writing, by phone calls, somehow, some means showing that there is something really truly going on other than crickets. Because I'm hopeful that this board will actually have the power to do something good for these children who are being held hostage to the court system and by their abusive parents. Thank you very much for your time. I respect each one of you as a professional, and I truly hope we can see some great results coming out of this very, very shortly. Thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Craig.
I'm going to take a little liberty here, and this is not the place for a back and forth with the public, but I do want to point out that if there are allegations of that type of abuse being made, this board is not equipped to handle those immediately, and I would suggest the police need to be involved if there are active harm being done as described. This is not the place for us to do it, because we are not equipped to handle that and intervene in those kind of situations. The police or somebody else would need to be called immediately if that was happening.
Thank you, John.
Next up is Sandra Martin. Ms. Martin, did you have some public comments you'd like to make? Ms. Martin?
Looks like her mic is turned off. She's muted.
Now can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Okay. Well, good morning. As you know, or at least two of you do, I'm an LPC. I've been attending their board meetings regularly and encouraging Christian counselors of Texas to step up their involvement with monitoring the boards and attending the meetings and so on and so forth. I'm here simply to advise or announce or whatever that I'm the dog that caught the car. Christian Counselors of Texas launched a committee early this year as a governmental liaison committee, and they rewarded my labor by naming me chair of that committee. I question really the quality of that reward, but we'll discuss that with them later. But I'm happy to say we'll be more involved in governmental matters than we have been in the past, as we need to be, because as Christian counselors, our voice is unique and we want to be heard in matters of import to our profession. So good morning again. Thank you for your hard work. I know this has been a hard and long labor, and we'll be seeing you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Martin, and welcome.
Mr. Francis, do you have public comments you'd like to make?
Yes, can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good morning. Thank you, Executive Director Spinks and Chair Canseco for the opportunity to speak this morning. My name is Will Francis, and I am the Executive Director for the National Association of Social Workers Texas Chapter. I would just like to discuss very briefly item number 6 on the agenda, discussing possible solutions to the TSB SWE licensing backlog. I can confirm that I receive numerous emails a week on this. I'm emailing the licensing board 3 to 5 times a day on a variety of issues, and the probably largest is those who have turned in all of their paperwork, are waiting to test, and just need that opportunity to schedule that with Pearson View, who is the contractor from ASWB. Texas State Licensing Board, along with Chair Spinks, developed a plan that would allow people to go directly to ASWB. I think this is a great workaround. We highly appreciate it. I reached out to some other states to determine if there were any other entities that do this, and really did not see any others at all. It would seem that if we didn't go to ASWB, we would essentially be paying a middle person to do it, and someone else would actually be getting dollars that currently go to our board or in the future may go to ASWB. So I very much encourage you all to look at what is presented to you all in this regards, and that we do as an association think that this will speed up, and we do appreciate the licensing board looking at this, coming up with solutions. We know they're working hard. We really do appreciate having this on the table. So thank you all for the opportunity to speak this morning.
Thank you so much.
Hannah Arlette. Ms. Arlette, do you have public comments you'd like to make?
Yes, I do. I want to begin by thanking you for allowing me to speak today regarding my concerns surrounding Dr. Kim Ariendos. Everyone on this committee has already been made aware of the specific multitude of ethical violations. Therefore, I will not take any of your valuable time listing them individually. As a concerned member of the public and a mental health professional myself, I am outraged and disappointed over the amount of time these investigations against Dr. Ariando has taken, especially considering the nature of the complaints themselves. When decisions have been made, like many others, I have been angered at the flippant disregard for the long-term effects of these decisions and how they affect the most vulnerable population, our children. These children, all of whom we as a society are responsible for protecting, are being subjected to ongoing abuse that can never be undone. I am imploring that all of you take more than a minute to sit with the seriousness of this outcome, not only for Eitan and Ariel Karsagi, but for all the children who have been and will be placed in danger due to Dr. Ariando. I also want to add that in this situation, and probably many others, CPS and the police have been involved, but as the direct result of her evaluations, these agencies frequently reference the custody evaluations and make no further decisions. The severity of harm of Ms. Ariando's evaluations means that the victims are disbelieved and they themselves will no longer reach out. These two children I am speaking on behalf of are too young and too small to use their voice. And as the public, we are responsible for helping them and advocating for them in any way possible. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Arlette.
Ms. Huber, do you have public comments you'd like to make?
Good morning, and thank you for your time. My name is Heather Huber, and as a former Harris County teacher and Harris County juvenile detention intern, I understand how stressed our system is and how long it takes so many times for something. Having been Alyssa's roommate in college, I have known her for many years and have witnessed her time with not only her children, but many other children, and how many of them look up to her as such a special caregiver that she is. It angers me to see that her kids have been ripped from her arms, even with the statistics showing that Mr. Karsagi has held a gun to both his head and threatened the children and herself. The police have been called, CPS has been called, yet everything goes unnoticed over the years. It angers me that this is dragged on for so long through our system and that these kids are the ones that are hurting. This psychologist needs to have her license revoked because it is because of her that everything keeps popping up, stating that Alyssa is an unfit parent, which she clearly is not, due to so many others that have stepped forward and witnessed the same actions that have happened. It angers me that CPS cases keep getting dropped because of this report, and the police are not following through on it. These children are injured on a regular basis, both mentally, physically, and sexually, and nothing is being done because of it. Unfortunately, there are a few out there that are doing these types of things and that are slipping through the cracks. When there are so many well-spoken and well-documented cases of psychologists that have stepped forward and helped these children, yet this one individual has caused so much harm to so many, not just poor Ariel and Aton, but many other children in Brazos County. I urge you to take this case on with speed and deliberation to be able to move forward and help save these children from future harm, both from his father and from others. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Ms. Huber.
Ms. Vega, you have public comments you'd like to make?
You're muted, Ms. Vega.
On mute.
There you
Hi. Do you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. More than a comment is a question, and I don't know if this is the correct forum, but I'm a licensed professional counselor in Puerto Rico. I just moved to Texas in the middle of COVID. I've been trying to do the verification process for my license, but in Puerto Rico, the board is closed. So this put me in a very difficult situation because even it's LPC, the same as here, there are some steps that I have to do. Currently, my husband, we're not legally married. He's a veteran, but I don't know if I can apply for the veterans benefits for the waivers because we are not legally married.
Ms. Vega, the council can't respond to questions like this during this forum. it's kind of against the law, so we can't really respond to your questions on licensing issues in particular. So I apologize, but we won't be able to answer that question. What you'll
No worries. I just want to know because every time I'm gonna call to an office, it's machines and machines and machines. So I never got no one accountable for doing this process, and it's a little bit annoying because right now I need my license here.
Understood. What you'll have to do is you'll have to call after September 1st. Once the LPC board has transitioned under this body, the Executive Council, you'll need to call the number on the board's website or email at the email address listed on the website. We'll see if we can't get your questions answered there.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Vega.
Milka, do you have any public comments you'd like to make? And if you do, I need you to state your full name so that we can have it for the record.
On mute.
Milka, screen name Milka. Okay. You seem to be muted. Going once, going twice.
There you go.
Okay, we got one telephone caller. Caller, do you have any public comments you'd like to make?
Also muted.
All right, going once, going twice. Okay, we got two more that popped up. Ms. Coronado, you have public comments you'd like to make?
Sure, thanks. Good morning. It's Tara Coronado Cunningham. I've spoken in front of this board numerous times, and I also spoke with the LPC and the MFT board prior to this with a complaint that I filed. I do want to point out, I'm so thankful that this board has come together, and I'm really hoping for great things. I do want to point out the majority of the calls, 4 boards came together, and the majority of the calls are about TSBEP. And they're about clusters of complaints about psychologists that are not being addressed. I do want to reiterate what Alyssa said earlier. We have been told across the board, go talk to this person, go talk to the courts, go talk to the, the legislators that put this in play. Nobody cares out there except for you guys. And when you send us out on these wild goose chases to try to find out somebody that can oversee these psychologists, it was TSBEP. I mean, that's who it is. That's the job of TSBEP, and everyone that we go talk to says that. So I am just reaching out to say that, this issue is not going away. I don't know why you guys aren't addressing it. I'm really happy that BHEC can look at it collectively. I do have, I know you can't answer, but questions about the complaints that have been pushed over to BHEC, are those grandfathered in under TSBEP rules, or are you going to be reevaluating them under BHEC rules? Because it seems you've put into place a lot of checklists for court-ordered evaluations that we can't obtain because we can't obtain the files from the psychologist, and TSBEP has not forced psychologists to provide files when requested. So number 4 on the checklist for complaints involving court-ordered evaluations, a copy of any documents by licensee describing the cost of service. Well, if you didn't have to pay for the services, you don't get that. That's in the psychologist file. So we can't get it. So there's information on here that by definition we can't get unless you make the psychologist provide their files to us. And I really don't understand why that is something that you guys are not requesting. I mean, people are requesting files, they're not being given, and then we are being handcuffed with what you're asking us to provide because we can't get the files from the psychologist. The last one I want to talk about quickly is under checklist, under additional complainants must show at least one of the following. It's a bunch of stuff that is caught up in court, and I think there's again kind of a misunderstanding that people are going to go to the appellate court to complain about a psychologist. That no one that is in these situations has the money to file an appellate claim. But looking at number 5, the agency would likely to prevail under a hearing before SOAH based on the information provided. Is that in there as a catch-all where we would catch the things that are per se violations, financial coercion, failure to provide documents, unprofessional behavior, inability to maintain proper records? Is that where you guys are catching that? Because the rest of it seems really heavily reliant on court orders. So if it's a way to make it where nobody can file a complaint, which is what it looks like, I just want to point out that the number 5 under additional complaints seems like the only place where professional misconduct is addressed in your new BHEC rules under court ordered evaluations. So I hope everyone would take a moment to look at that and think about the real life ramifications of how that's affecting people that are filing complaints. So my takeaways, I need to know, and I guess I'll call or file an open records, are we grandfathered in under TSBEP rules? Or are we going to be reevaluated under BHEC rules? Because, you know, these complaints are taking years. So are we starting over after we've already waited a year? Or will it be continued to be reviewed, is my question.
Carol, are you able to answer that, or?
No, we can't answer that right now.
But that you may want to stay on because it will come out in the different agenda items that you described.
Oh, I stay on the whole call every time, Ms. Canseco, so I will be here all day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Let's see. Ms. Kotler, do you have public comments you'd like to make?
Yes, thank you. Hi, my name is Bonnie Kotler, and I appreciate your giving me the opportunity to speak on behalf of Alyssa Karsagi. My husband and I are blessed with many children and grandchildren, and additionally, I've worked at his pediatric office for some years, so I feel comfortable speaking about parents and children. Here are 4 important vignettes I'd like to share about Alyssa. Number 1, she has a high sense of integrity. For example, when a friend tried to pay her for helping, she told her, "I took a little break, so please deduct that amount." Another example, when she was explaining what had happened to her throughout this ordeal, I would repeat back to her to make sure that I understood it, and she would clarify things so that if I said something not correct, even if it was for the benefit of her ex-husband, she would clarify it for me. She has a high sense of integrity and honesty. Number 2, when I asked my 14-year-old granddaughter if she knew my friend Alyssa, the first words out of her mouth were, "She's awesome with kids." Indeed, I've seen her at homes playing games, talking with a good handful of children all around her, from babies to adolescents. Number 3, one of my grandchildren is 7 years old now. He has a genetic disease called GSD1A. If he doesn't drink a cornstarch solution every 3 hours, we don't want to talk about what would happen. So one day, while caring for others, Alyssa saw him and noticed he seemed sad. She asked him why. He told her he was having a bad day and he wasn't going to drink his cornstarch, but he was just going to go to sleep. Alyssa knew what that meant. She said comforting words to him while she quickly phoned his mother and possibly saved his life, all because she noticed that he looked sad. She's very perceptive. Number 4, for the past months, Alyssa's ex-husband hasn't allowed her to see her children at all. But last February and March, she was allowed to see her 2 boys at a community center or library. So on 2 occasions, I was able to bring them pizza. And for a few minutes, when the door opened and I put down the pizza, I got to see her with the children. She had brought toys and books for them. She had them around the room. She had one boy on her lap, a blanket for another one. They looked so happy. This is what gives Alyssa the most meaning in her life, to be with her young boys. And her love for them was tangibly seen in their love back to her. From what I understand, when it's time to go, they're crying like crazy. It was truly idyllic, and I left thinking how blessed I was to have had this opportunity to see them together. So the bottom line is that it is really incomprehensible how Alyssa could be assessed by this Kim Arredondo as being in any way unsuitable. She's the most gentle, kind, caring, honest, very bright and intuitive mother for her children. I understand that Kim gave custody to the father whose temper episodes and brandishing of a gun, he's moved around so many times that each time CPS has complaints against him, he'll move to another place. He even admitted himself about the gun. Please, I'm asking the council to remove the current custody evaluator, as I really worry for the physical, mental, emotional health and safety of her children and many others. As they've mentioned, that's 3 minutes. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Kotler. Daryl, a previous caller, Milka, was unable to unmute. She's going to type in her question, but since she was, further in on the list, I didn't know if you want to go directly to her or him. I can't tell.
She
Can you
can't
see the question?
she can't unmute. I see the question. Can you all pull up the Q&A and see the question from Ms. Miller?
Yes, the one about yes, it's showing now. So
Do we need to read that into the record, or
no? You don't.
Okay.
Okay. Well, but for the others who are listening, I think I'd like to go ahead and read it. It says, "My name is Carolyn Miller, LMSW. I submitted my paperwork to upgrade my license to LCSW in February 2020. I'm awaiting on approval to sit for the exam. It's very frustrating as there is no one to call or email to check status. Please address the please address the backlog. This is affecting employment and income." Sorry we couldn't hear you, Carolyn, and this is a matter that's being addressed, as you'll hear. Thank you so much.
That concludes all the public comments. Everybody that had their hand raised has spoken, given their 3 minutes.
For the record, we had one that was submitted via written email that we did get.
You had two.
Two of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Two were submitted written comments that I forwarded to y'all.
And I think I see a raised hand under Shanna Balkan.
Yes, yeah, she just raised. Ms. Balkan, do you have public comments you'd like to give?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Just one moment. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak here today on behalf of Alyssa Karsagi, and I appreciate your readiness to bring justice to Alyssa and her precious innocent children who very much need to be with their mother. When I met Alyssa at a mutual friend's house, I liked her instantly. It was obvious that she was and is an exceptionally kind and loving person whom I could trust. I'm not the most trusting person, especially when it comes to someone watching my children, and I'm extremely picky about that, but it was clear that I could trust Alyssa. I knew Alyssa was the kind of person who would keep my children safe and make them feel loved and cared for. I asked for her help watching my then 6-month-old, and she looked after my baby on multiple occasions. At some points, I was there to actually see her interacting with my children, and Alyssa was gentle and attentive, knowing just what kind of attention my child needed at any given moment. She also babysits for a number of people I know on a regular basis, and they all feel the same way, that they can put their full trust into Alyssa, who gives a mother's love, care, and attention to any child in her care. Anyone who's ever met Alyssa can plainly see the trustworthiness of this woman, and it's completely beyond logic or comprehension that Alyssa doesn't have custody of her own 2 precious children who desperately need her in the face of observable and obvious abuse from their father. It's my sincerest hope and plea that you'll ensure the safety of Alyssa's children by not only reuniting them with Alyssa, but also by holding Dr. Kim Arredondo accountable for her reprehensible role in this tragic abuse and danger. We all need to do our part to keep every child safe, and I thank you for doing your part and giving me the chance to do mine.
Thank you so much, Ms. Balkan. Daryl, I see that Brenda M. submitted a question early in the day. I don't know if we skipped her or she's had a chance to talk and I lost track. Do you see it on the top?
I see it on the Q&A, yeah, but she didn't raise her. She's on the attendee list, but she didn't raise her hand to give public comment.
Okay.
Daryl, how is this Q&A answered?
It depends on y'all. It's not something that I'm going to automatically answer. These are, if you'll recall at, I think our June meeting, y'all had some discussion about you wanted to use either the Q&A or the chat. Chat is not a good idea, so we opted for the Q&A. It allows you to select during the meeting if you want to. If a question is on an agenda topic, you can't respond to just random questions that aren't related to an agenda topic. But if there is a Q&A that's related to an agenda topic, you can choose to respond to it if you want to.
I think we should answer it if it is on the agenda because it makes it faster than them talking for 3 minutes. And it's another venue where they can ask questions and get their, but if we don't respond, that doesn't look right.
Okay.
I'd have to agree. And if there's consensus, I'd like to read Brenda's remark. It is something that we're addressing within the agenda, but you'll have it at the top of your minds. Daryl, is that permissible, or do I need a motion to do that?
No, you can read it. If you deem it in the public comments, you can read it.
All right, I'd like to do that. Brenda M. writes, I would just like clarity on licensing. Many of us have submitted for social work license approval for supervision. We were told to continue with supervision, and once approved, it would backdate to the date of application submission. I've been paying for almost 1 year for supervision for my LCSW, and I have not been approved. I applied in October of 2019. I have emails and called numerous times. Please advise, I've spent almost $1,000. Within the agenda, we will address this, but I do want to bring it to everyone's attention that this item has come to our attention on numerous occasions. It's at the top of our minds. We are concerned for the backlog, and for at least 2 prior meetings have discussed it, but full authority does not transfer to our council until September 1, which is Tuesday. And at that time, the matter will be managed by designated staff as efficiently and as quickly as possible. We are advocates of Texans in need of mental health, but mostly for the professionals who provide that care. And as such, our powers are limited by the things that you will read in the statutes that support us and the rules that we're going to discuss today. But I don't want anyone listening to think that we are biased in any way. We speak for all Texans seeking mental health services and providing them insofar as we're permitted by our, I don't know what to call it, enacting statutes or regulations. I think I speak for the whole board when we say we take our responsibilities very seriously. So let's continue to the remainder of the agenda, unless there's somebody else that would like to make a remark. Any council member? Okay, let's go to item 4, review and approval of minutes from prior meetings. Folks, I think you have that in your attachments, the ones that Daryl sent. If there are no remarks, I would entertain a motion for approval.
There's 2
Yes, Gloria.
agendas,
Oh, go
June
ahead.
and July.
Right, I'm sort of treating it as a consensus agenda. So do you want to take them one at a time?
You can approve them both with the same motion if you'd like.
I thought, are there any corrections or additions or changes to the minutes as submitted to us? If not, do I hear a motion to approve as submitted?
I make a motion to approve both the meeting minutes.
Second that.
I'm sorry, was there any discussion?
I said I would second it.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Then there's a motion to approve both sets of minutes as submitted. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. The motion passes. Item 5 on the agenda is to review a sample status report on complaints. Daryl, do you have something that you want to show us, or would you like to take that up for us?
Yeah, I'll take that up. I don't have anything to show you. I have not had time to work on this. This is going to be something we have to take up after the agency actually launches on the 1st. So I don't have anything to show you right now.
All right, that makes sense. So we will hold that item for the next agenda. Is that correct? And do I need
to, if possible, rather than keeping it on, if I'd like the liberty to be able to put it back on once I'm ready, once I've got the stuff ready, so that I don't get put in a bind of having to come back and yet again tell you all this.
Sure.
Okay.
Understood. Thank you. Anybody have any objection or comments? Are we okay with that? Looks like we're okay with that. Item 6 is discussion regarding possible solutions to, and everyone's going to be happy to hear this, the Texas State Board of Social Worker Examiners, the licensing backlog, including whether to move forward with negotiations with, I'm not good at acronyms, so I'm just going to read the acronym, ASWB on processing social worker applications for examination and approval through the ASWB licensing portal. And I think that that's going to begin with a report from Daryl regarding alternative vendors and past experience by folks from other jurisdictions already utilizing the ASWB licensing portal. So Daryl, we'll start with you, and then I think is Jennifer taking this one, or are you, I kind of can't remember.
It'll be Tim Spear and I will be working on this one together.
Okay, thank you.
Answering questions for y'all.
Thanks.
Let me begin by telling everybody that's watching out there. I know social workers are worked up about this and worried about it, and I understand why. No, this is on our radar. I mean, it's on the front of the screen. We're on it. We can't. There's not a lot we can do until September 1st, but I don't want anybody thinking that it's just something that we're looking at in passing. One of the things that I've talked about with Chair Brown and Mr. Spear over at HHSC is the need for us we're going to have to get creative in solving this thing. And that's one of the reasons why we're looking at ASWB to handle the exam approval. If you'll recall, when we had our last meeting in July, we approved the action plan that we had developed to address these backlogs. And as part of that action plan, one of the things I was to do was to reach out to ASWB, who gave a presentation at that meeting, reach out to ASWB and start basically trying to negotiate with them to see if we could come to some sort of agreement. Long story short, some of the main issues that were discussed at the last meeting were the term of any kind of an agreement that ASWB or that the council would enter with ASWB. Are there any other comparable competitors out there with ASWB whom we should be exploring? In other words, we don't want to just take the first person that that comes along that offers a solution. And kind of what has been other jurisdictions' experiences with ASWB. Let me begin with that last one. I know Ms. Bradford has spoken with, Alice, you correct me if I'm wrong, you've spoken with Utah and Massachusetts, but you weren't able to get a hold of Colorado. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And did they, they had good things to say about their relationship and the service that was provided to ASWB. Is that correct?
Yes, both Massachusetts and Utah indicated their positive feedback and felt that their needs were being met by ASWB.
And after learning that Ms. Bradford had contacted those jurisdictions, I also reached out to Colorado. I didn't want to revisit those same jurisdictions that Alice had already spoken to. Reached out to Colorado again, and I haven't heard back from Colorado either. So they're remotely just like everybody else, but apparently it's a little hard to get a hold of them. They have a different structure than what BHEC is or what other agencies are. So it's not like you're actually calling the social work board in Colorado. You're calling DORA, which is their Department of Regulatory Affairs or something like that. So anyway, I've tried to reach out to them, haven't been able to do it. Now, as far as competitors for ASWB, you heard Mr. Francis, Will Francis, he's done some looking. I've also done some looking. I contacted ASPPB, which is the Association for State and Provincial Psychology Boards. They're the functional equivalent to ASWB for psychology. And I just asked them, I said, hey, is there anybody else out, are you aware of anybody else out there that offers, not necessarily just specific to social workers, but just this process, this service of being able to take applicants, vet them according to our rules, and then get them approved for an exam? And ASPPB's response to me was, why aren't you using ASWB? Long story short, ASPPB said, no, we're not aware of anything that's out there. The closest thing they could think of, and I hadn't thought of this till he mentioned it, is there's a program called Certami. It's a software service is what it is but it doesn't do the same thing that ASWB is offering. Certainly would not solve our problem because our problem is a manpower problem. It's not so much a software problem. It's just we don't have the bodies to handle the volume that we're dealing with. So software as a service isn't going to solve our issue alone. The other services that I talked about with ASPPB are more like services that get doctors approved with, basically they gather all the materials that a physician or a healthcare provider would need in order to get licensed or to get certified with Medicaid or whoever. They're more of a document compilation service. That, again, that's not what we need. We actually need somebody that can handle the intake of these applicants and then compare the information provided by the applicant against the rules that we have and then say, yes, you are qualified to take the exam and here's how you sign up for the exam. Candidly, the only thing I'm seeing out there is the ASWB option that really kind of fits the bill for what we've got. So to answer the questions from the last meeting, I have not been able to find a competitor, and I haven't heard anything bad about ASWB and the services they provide. And the last issue was there was some discussion about the term of any kind of a contract for the council. Obviously, this being a new endeavor, a couple of the board members didn't want to lock us into a 3-year term. And I believe Mr. Francis and Mr. Blemowitz were more inclined to go with a 1-year term. So I visited with ASWB about that. They are agreeable to that. So that kind of resolves that, that hiccup there that takes that road bump out of the way. ASWB has sent me, I asked them for a draft of whatever the contract would look like that's needed. They've sent it to me. Candidly, guys, I just have not had time to look at it. I'm drinking from a water hose here. From a fire hose, and I just have not had time to review that thing. So otherwise, I'd have had it for you today. We really weren't supposed to be talking about this issue at this meeting. We were going to talk about it, if you'll recall, at the meeting after the social work board meeting in September the 11th. But when Dave and them from ASWB got back to me so quickly and this all developed, Alice that ran those traps for me. When all that happened, I thought, well, we might as well come back here and fill y'all in on what's going on. That's where we're at. What I would like to do now is I think we probably need to polish up the contract, see if we can't, if y'all are okay with moving forward with ASWB, then I will begin working on the contract to make sure that it meets all the contracting requirements it has to here in Texas and that it basically meets all our needs. And then we'll probably need to have some sort of a special meeting. I don't know that I want to wait, or I don't know that I don't know that I would recommend we wait until October or November, whenever our next meeting is. I'm thinking that we might be able to have just a really quick meeting. If we can get the contract hammered out, we could have a real quick meeting so that y'all could approve it. And then we're off and running. And I can start working with the social work board on any rule changes that are needed, and ASWB can start doing the building that they need to do on their side. I think, if I'm remembering right, it'll take them, I don't know, roughly a month, maybe 2 at most, to kind of get their end squared away to where they're up and running. But in government terms, that's pretty quick. So I'm willing to, normally I don't like calling special meetings. I don't like that because it just creates a lot more work for staff. But given the problem we're facing with the social work board, I think I'm going to have to swallow what I don't like, and we're going to have to kind of do what we have to do to tackle this. So
I would have to agree. I think that this matter is urgent, and it's becoming more urgent. That's not just reflected by the number of private comments we've had, but just the number of times this has come up. And I think that's in the best interest of the state. So much so that I would entertain a motion to approve it now based on I don't want to micromanage this to death. I believe that Daryl has the capacity and the expertise to approve something like this. I think we could authorize him to approve the contract and let's get moving. We need these folks, especially given the current mental health and behavioral health crisis I would entertain a motion if someone is willing to make it. If we have a motion and a second, then we can go ahead and discuss the details further.
Chair Canseco, if you don't mind, if I could take just a moment before we go into that. I did want to respond because we did have, during our last meeting, the public member for the social work board did have some concerns. And I did call a special meeting for the social work board together, and the board did discuss the option of ASWB and the background. Also, the public members concerned there might be some, special treatment or some kickback or something. And so I wanted to follow up and let everyone know that the social work board did unanimously vote to request that the BHIC use ASWB to perform these duties.
Terrific. Thank you. If there's no other discussion, I sure would entertain a motion. Let's get
I make the motion.
Going.
I make the motion that we use that for the social work board.
I would second it.
There's a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion regarding the motion? Okay, sure. Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Same sign. Looks like the motion passes. Thanks so much, and thanks to all of you who have been waiting for this to happen. I'm sure things will move along quickly. Daryl, we'll rely on you to make that contract solid for a year, and we'll wait to hear the good news at the next board meeting about how many of these licenses and how far the progress we've made on the backlog. Thank you so much, and thanks to all of you for making this happen.
Daryl, just a clarification, this contract is for 1 year or 2 years?
1 year.
1 year, just to make sure it works out.
I have a question. Daryl, do you need us to have a special, is there a reason that you need us to have a special meeting on this issue but before our next meeting?
No, I mean, if y'all are going to go ahead and authorize me to, once I get the contract hammered out and I'm comfortable with it legally, no, I don't need a special session. I do want to clarify, okay, Dr. Abraham, on the 1 year, the contract will be automatically renewable now. There, you can stop the automatic renewal. But and the reason I like automatic renewals is because if you don't, what I don't want to do is forget to renew the thing and then stuck without a contract. So that happens quite a bit in state government. So I don't want to run into that. We've already seen what happens without this type of a solution, so I'm trying to avoid that.
If I could ask another question just related to this, for those people that are attending the meeting and listening who are affected by what's happening because of their license as social workers, can you just say very briefly, what does this mean, the decision and what we just adopted, what does this mean for them so they understand?
It means the long processing times that it has taken the social work board or the actual agency staff to, once they receive an application, to vet that application to see if you qualify to sit for the exam. Those very long periods of time will now be decreased to, we're expecting probably 20 to 30 days tops, because we're going to offload that particular function onto ASWB. And remember, ASWB owns and administers the exam that's social work. So once they've approved them, according to our rules, they're not just applying their own rules. Once they've vetted and approved them to sit for the exam under our rules, it's much easier to just streamline right into the exam from ASWB. So it's just it should be a much more efficient, smooth process. And ASWB has been doing this a long time. Everybody saw the system that they had last time. That's why I asked them to show us. It's a pretty slick system. So
I would agree with that. So my question would be for those people that have been waiting for a longer period of time than they expected, who have already sent their credentials. There's a transition, isn't there, to go to this new system. So it's not like someone who's already been waiting 3 months or since February. It will be 30 days after September 1. If we can set appropriate expectations, I think that would assist people.
Right. If you've already submitted to the board, we'll have to vet those. We'll have to continue to vet those. We're not going to be able to transfer. What we're talking about is prospective in nature. Once this is implemented, everybody who then applies to sit for the exam will go through this new process. If you're already in the system, we're going to have to vet you. But
And then my question is, when you take the ones that we're vetting within the board, are you taking the person who's been waiting the longest and working your way back? Or how does that, what determines your sort order?
the order that they're received. We process applications in the order that they're received.
So the person who's been waiting the longest is going to get the first look-see.
Yeah, they should be. I don't know how they wouldn't be
That makes sense.
the priority.
And also, since we are not dealing with the new application, so the process will be a little bit faster for those waiting.
Correct. Yeah, you've stopped the inflow of stuff now, so staff aren't bailing water out of a boat that's, you know, sinking faster than they can bail. So yeah, it should help. Should help. Now,
So those that have been, oh, wait, if I
go
can
ahead.
just
I fully
go, Daryl.
anticipate this is, I want everybody to understand, this is just one change that we're looking at making. Mr. Spear and I are we're going to visit with the social work board on September the 11th about some other ideas that we've got on the supervision plan side of it. This is not just a singular problem. This backlog doesn't stem out of just a singular problem. That solution handles the backlog on the exam approval. We've also got backlogs on the approval of supervision plans. That solution we just talked about doesn't address that. So we're going to have to tackle these two different things. So we'll be meeting on September the 11th. My point being is I want people to understand that we're identifying what the problems are, and we're trying to think outside the box of how do you solve this, because conventional wisdom has gotten us here. And so we're having to all get unconventional in how we approach it. And I mean, that's what this new council is designed for. It's to, okay, we got to think outside the box. Let's get creative in how we're going to solve this. So we're going to visit with the social work board and see, share some ideas with them and see what they think about it on September the 11th.
I'd like to thank everyone for addressing these issues and being so responsive when I brought these forward, because they've been issues that we've been experiencing at the social work board for several years, and I know licensees will appreciate it as well, which in turn will help the public and protect the public as people are able to be licensed in practice.
Yeah.
Agreed. Thank you, Tim. Is there any other discussion regarding this agenda item?
I just wanted to say, Tim, if there are things that BHEC can do to help with the supervision plan backlog, please let us know after that September 11th meeting. We do want to hear about how bad, because as I understand it, there's really two prongs to the backlog, right?
Correct.
Thank you, everyone. It is 10:17. I'd like to adjourn for a short break, if I may, and let's get back here about right at 10:30. Y'all up for a 12-minute break?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Sure, thanks. What do we do with our screens? Do we just minimize them?
Just remember to turn off your mic and your camera.
Got it.
That's all you got to do.
Okay, thank you.
Now, can you say that again?
Sure. It is 10:31 on August 28th, and we are reconvening a meeting of the Texas Behavioral Health Executive Council after a short morning break. I believe that we were on item 6. Did we cover everything related to item 6?
Yes, ma'am.
Great, then we'll go on to item number 7, the discussion regarding the need for renewal certificates through the public search feature of the online licensing system.
Yes. One of the things that I had learned that came up during a recent meeting between a lot of the executive directors in the states, we were talking about how people handle the processing and the mailing out of renewal certificates, because a lot of people apparently are having trouble with the mail system right now, getting stuff out, if it gets there at all, and then whether it's timely. A lot of stuff getting lost. So we were talking about this in this group that I'm in, and the nursing board just kind of said something in passing that caught my ear. they do not issue renewal permits. They actually just have their licensees and the public rely upon the information that is published on the website, their database website. And I thought, I don't know, I just got to thinking, I'm like, why in the world are we issuing renewal permits? Because all of the information that is on that renewal permit is going to be on our website. You can look it up. That completely removes the ability for people to snap a picture of a renewal permit and forge it. And I thought that would be a lot cheaper. It seems to be a lot safer. And that was kind of why the nursing board went in that direction, is that they could avoid forgeries and imposters. But
I believe that's also true for dentists and dental hygienists. I don't believe they get a renewal certificate. I think they do it online as well, just because that's a group that I work with, and that's how we certify them. That's how we check on their certification. It's an interesting idea. How much would that save us, Daryl?
well, I mean, what do we got? 50,000 licensees. You know, you're pumping out 50,000 renewal. Well, you're probably pumping out more than that, because my guess is some people are duly licensed. At 50 cents, say you're spending 50 cents, you're probably spending anywhere from $13,000 to $20,000 a year in mailing on just this stuff, on just your renewal permits. And I'm like, wow, that's a big chunk that could be saved if we can put all that. If all that same information is on the website, why are we printing certificates and mailing them out? Spending man hours to do that and the postage to do it. So I wanted to throw that out there. So if y'all are interested in doing that, that's something we can certainly. That would take some minor rule changes, but.
Any discussion?
For discussion, if y'all want to do it, I think it'd probably be a good idea. But
Daryl, a little more clarification on that. So you're telling the license will be stayed renewed or stayed current till it's for some reason canceled or revoked or something? Am I understanding you right?
no, ma'am. What I'm talking about is doing away with actually printing the renewal permit and then mailing it out to the licensee. This doesn't have anything to do with the license is valid for we're not tinkering with the expiration date on the license. It's just, instead of you getting that little postcard, kind of like the example I gave y'all in the board packet, if somebody wanted to see when Dr. Fletcher's license was up for expiration or when it had been issued, they would just go to the website, type in her name or license number, and it pulls all that information up. So, but I mean,
I have seen that in action, Dr. Abraham, and I've seen that you can not only you can look up a person or even yourself. Am I active? When am I expiring? What's the status of it now? Or someone, if you were interviewing someone, say you had a bigger firm, it's so easy to do. And then I believe that there's also the option for the user to print it in case that person wants to print it and post it. I think it sounds like something we really ought to investigate. It could save time and money.
Time and money, and also then it does not fall on us if they moved or they didn't receive it. And because I've got an LPC board, we didn't get a renewal, so that eliminates all that. So I think it's a great idea.
I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, that's right.
It does.
Daryl, is there a function on our website? I'm wondering, would licensees ever need a copy of that renewal? So for instance, the only time I can think of where I have to have that is for insurance purposes,
right?
And for third party, for panels that I'm on, they need to be able to see that. And so I'm wondering, is there some kind of function on our website, or could we build it in where something could be downloaded if it needed to be demonstrated to a third party? How do the dentist and the nursing board handle that? I would assume that the insurance and the panels and all of that are requiring the same thing from them, and so I'm curious about how they handle that piece.
I believe that with the dentists, you can click on a link yourself. Your patient can click on the link to find out what your status is. it's pretty much, I think it's pretty public. I don't know about the downloading and printing, but I've been on enough databases to know that that's a fairly easy feature. It's an upload, just like, you know what, it works like iTunes. You just upload your information or update it, and then you download it and print it if that's what you want to do, or you save it as a PDF. I think it's a real common.
Jennifer, you can download them from the site.
Okay.
Yeah, right here at the bottom where it says print.
You might want to enlarge that a little bit, Daryl.
Oh, you've now exceeded my my tech skills.
Go up. Oh, you can't see my arrow either. What a dodo. Right next to the X on the top right corner, I think you can make it full screen and look at bigger. There you go. You can't see the whole thing, but you'll have to slide. But
yeah,
There's a print option is there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to the 20th century. It's 2020 and we're doing it.
Yes, ma'am. I think it's a great idea.
Let's check and see if Chair Smotherman, if she's current. Yeah, she is. Okay.
Mrs. Smotherman, I do the verifications and I deal a lot with the insurance companies. So they are very excited that we have this online. So now they're using this as a way to verify license now.
That is fantastic. And one, as a side note that kind of goes along with this, I know that we have a verification process for licensure for like if someone's licensed in another state and all of that. It would be great if we could use this function in multiple ways, not just this piece about renewal, but if we were able to use this so that we're not having to track paper through an office and then back to another office, you know, so just kind of keeping an eye on this and seeing how can we really use this function.
One of the questions I had for y'all, and I don't know the answer to this, so that's why I was pitching it to y'all, is when you're on the insurance panels, like, would they accept just a printout of this page, or could they go to it and confirm it, or do they require an actual kind of a goofy little certificate?
In the past, like CAQH, you have to take a picture, upload that document, and then it says, you know, received, accepted, or rejected. So I don't know. I mean, I would also be willing to take a picture of or print out, you know, from the website and upload that. All they can do is say no, and then you can say, well, in Texas,
this is how we do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can tell you again. All I know is dentists, but since I run in the private sector a volunteer organization, when a dentist volunteers, we're able to look at the status of that renewal, verify the license number, put all that into our database for the person volunteers. So, and they're a little more segmented than what I can see that we've done so far. Again, I'm not a mental health provider, so I know less than the rest of you. I'm a public member, but it's really, really useful, and I think it's a great idea. So shall we, will you continue to look into this, and can you bring it back at the next?
Well, yeah, I start to say, if you're interested in doing this, what Patrick and I can do is we can bring back the rule changes that would be needed in order to do this. This will take some minor rule changes, but if that's what y'all want to do, and I hope so, but.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Consensus, do you need a motion, or is consensus okay?
No, there's nothing to vote on right now. You'll vote on the rule changes. So I just need to know. I didn't want to waste my time doing it.
Sure.
I said, no, we don't like that.
That's great. If there's no further discussion on item 7, then I believe we're going to item 8. Poor Daryl, take a drink of water because you've been talking. Number 8 are the report from our executive director.
Okay. You guys have seen, I've shown you the transition plan. That speaks for itself. I mean, you can see we're rocking along in there. Guys, we are T-minus, what, 2 days now, 2 business days away from launching BHEC. So I think we're in good shape. I'm going to be honest with y'all, your staff are exhausted. both here at the psych board and at HHSC. We are tired. But I think it's paid off in the end. We've gotten our office space situation squared away. The accountancy board is almost fully moved out. I'd sent you all those emails about the issue we had about where we were going to be. The accountancy board has now vacated Suite 3, Floor 9 over there. So we are now, everybody will be in Tower 3, Suite 900, or in the old architecture board. And we've got a spot for everybody finally. And we're not going to be scattered all over the floors and all over different towers. So that was a huge win when that occurred. And that happened this week, unfortunately, but better late than never, I suppose. The transition plan, we're going to have to bronze Jennifer Nowak's shoes because she has run that thing like a well-oiled machine. I can't give her enough props on what she's done there. She's kind of made sure that transition plan and everything on it, we've stayed on task. She's also getting ready for the LAR. We've got that going on right now. That's really all I have on the update. I mean, if you guys have any questions about anything on the transition plan, I'll answer them. The short version of it is, I think we're in good shape. We are scheduled to go live on September 1st. We've got IT is working on the laptops. We should have a spot for everybody to land on September 1st, and we ought to be able to hit the ground running. I'm expecting the phones to blow up on September 1st with upset social workers, but I've already mentally prepared myself for that. I know that's coming. I say the phones blow up. Unfortunately, they blew up earlier this week, and they are still not back up, but our email system is working. So people will be able to get a hold of us via email. But the good thing is everybody can renew online come September 1st.
We want to thank you and your staff, because we've all been privy to the different hoops you've had to jump through, particularly in the last couple of weeks. And I'm sure you're exhausted. And we thank you so much for your service. We are all learning in these unprecedented times how important it is to be flexible, and you have certainly pivoted on a dime more than once in the last month. It says a lot for the agency. It says a lot for who you are as individuals. But frankly, we knew you could do it because you're Texans. That's what we do in Texas. So thank you so much. Are there any other comments?
Yeah, I'd just like to say we made the right choice. Daryl was the right man, and he's not disappointed us at one bit. So appreciate him. Tim Spears, the EDs for the LMFTs, LPCs, and the social work boards, all working together. Really great job, and thank you so much for making this happen.
And I'll tell you, I want to kind of give a shout out to Tim and all his folks as well. I gripe and moan about just having to move across the tower. Tim and his folks are having to move across town, while at the same time answering the phone and answering the 9,000 emails you get every day. So they're doing, just for the folks listening out there, I promise you, they're doing the best they can. So don't cuss them too much. Don't cuss us too much after September 1st. I promise you, we're doing the best we can with what we have. Just hang in there. We'll be there. I want everybody to know it's going to be a little bumpy. Don't expect to get in a Cadillac on September 1st and just take off down a smooth road. It's going to be bumpy.
That's okay, Tim. I mean, we appreciate everything you guys have done and the hard work, and thank you for not pushing those people from the accounting department over. We truly appreciate your hard work and patience.
I agree with that. And we want to thank the incubation task force that has worked so hard over the past year. So our friends over at TDLR who have helped, and we've had folks who have helped us in the governor's office, who have been at the ready, and our general counsel. But, above all, Daryl, it's been you who has been a fearless leader, and your fingerprints are all over the foundation of this new agency. And so thank you. Thank you for everything that you've done. And to Tim Spear, too. Tim has Tim has done a remarkable amount of work in this as well. So.
Promise you it wasn't fearless. I've been scared to death the whole time.
I'm not many words, so I'll say ditto.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I'll admit it's 2020. When we were kind of all signing up for standing up this new agency, 2020 hadn't yet happened. So, bravo.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing should scare y'all after standing up in all of this train wreck that we've been going through.
That's right. If we can do it in 2020, we can do it.
I don't care if aliens landed out there going live on September 1st.
Thanks. And please don't bronze Ms. Nowak's shoes. Because she's as much.
Can I just add one more thing? I just want to add, because I did everything everybody said. We are getting emails beyond business hours from Daryl, and we know that this is more than a 40-hour-a-week job for him with the transition, and I just appreciate it and always try to respond, but don't expect another response, and then you do respond, Daryl, which I appreciate. So I just want to add that I think that there's been a perception we're hearing with public comments, as well as just other data that all of us are aware of, that sometimes people who are licensed, especially for social workers, but others, they feel like they're not being heard, and the public feels like they're not being heard. And I want to just offer, as somebody who is on the psychology board as well as this board, I do believe that they're heard. They are heard. And there's this perception that because we're so bogged down with so much going on, and then we've got 2020 on top of it, that that things are going to be put off to the side. And I just want to offer the perspective that I have, just very briefly, is that things are not put to the side. There's an order to things that needs to occur among all the boards, independent of BHEC. And then there's an order of things that need to occur with a new agency starting as of September 1, which, if you haven't noticed, I don't think we're going to see, I don't think it's going to be like Y2K. I don't think our computers will go down on September 1 because BHEC started. It's going to be a very smooth transition from one day to the next. And that's because of all the work that's been put in. So I just want to reiterate that the comments that we're hearing are being heard. The concerns are heard from the large population of people that have been trying to reach out to the boards as well as BHEC. They are being heard. It isn't because we're overwhelmed or the staff is overwhelmed that you're not being responded to. My perception is it's because there's an order to things, and some things have to happen first before that next thing has to happen. And if that's incorrect, Daryl, you can certainly argue with me live in a live stream. But I want to offer that because I just really think that it's an order, and that is not always understood from other perspectives.
Thank you, Susan. All right, thank you for that report. We are on to rulemaking. There's a proposed rule change to 22 TAC. I'm not going to read all those numbers. It's on the agenda, 9A, petition for rulemaking.
Gloria, can I clarify, were there other parts of that report that you needed to tell us about, Daryl?
I just wanted to.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were finished. Excuse me.
Yeah, the letter to the LBB requesting EB authority. I still haven't heard back from that. And then I wanted to let everybody know that Christopher Smith, who was our policy analyst for the governor's office, we've got a new gentleman, Scott Kibbe, will be the new policy analyst for BHEC. Chris is still with the governor's office, but Scott, I don't know if he angered somebody or just drew the black bean, but he got a lot of the health regulatory agencies. Chris is still there. I don't know who he's got, but Scott's got a lot of the health regulatory agencies now. So Scott is who I've been working with on these rules that we're about to talk about today.
And will he be joining us at these meetings on a normal?
So they sometimes sit over in the attendee list. They don't participate as panelists because it's not. I don't know that it's really appropriate for the governor's office. They don't view it as appropriate that they sit in on the meetings, really.
Okay, I'm still learning that stuff.
Yeah.
I apologize for interrupting you, Daryl. I thought it was over. Thank you, Jennifer. So on to rulemaking. The petition for rulemaking, I believe this discussion is going to, and the renewal of the license is going to be led by is it Councilwoman? Is that what I say? By Jennifer.
The first rule isn't something that Chair Smotherman would have to lead on, unless I guess she just wants to. If you'll recall, the first one is a product of some changes we talked about when we adopted BHEC's initial procedural rules. We wanted to make sure that it was clear in the petition for rulemaking that if the council receives or staff receive a petition that involves scope of practice, schedule of sanctions, any of those items that have to originate with the member board, then that petition for rulemaking needs to go to that member board first. Practically, that's how it has to work. Now we're just making it clear in the rule that that's the way it will work. So this is meant to assuage some concerns from stakeholders about how those would be handled. So.
Okay. And as we begin to consider these, Daryl, will you want us to motion for each to make motions for each different item, or do you want us to take them all at once, or what's the right procedure to follow here?
This rule, you'll need to take it individually.
And is that for every number or for every number and letter? So 9A and then 9B?
I'm sorry, 9A. Yeah, 9A you'll need to take individually.
So I'll entertain a motion to approve Rule 9A as presented. And after a second, we can discuss any further. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve rule change described in 9A, the petition for rulemaking. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Same sign. The rule passes. Councilwoman Smotherman. Wow, that's a mouthful. Rule 9B about renewing of a license.
Okay, that's actually in BHEC rule, that is going to be in 883.1 for anyone who might be following along there. And so when we were going through our rules and making repeals and changes in our rules, we were trying to be very mindful of rules that we have that were not duplicated already in BHEC rules. And this is one of those that we found that was not duplicated over a BHEC. And so we were asking for this council to consider adding the language there in G, that the executive director may grant a licensee additional time to complete continuing education requirements based on extraordinary circumstances such as medical complications. A request for additional time must be submitted in writing and received by the council on or before the license expiration date.
And the recommendation is that from your council, is that we approve this. Is that correct?
That's what we're asking for. The MFT board is asking for approval, or actually an addition in the BHEC rule that includes this language.
Is there any discussion?
I've got a couple things I want to point out to y'all, and y'all figure out how you want to go. There are two concerns I have about a rule like this. One is it inherently increases the workload on staff because when you do something like this, like for instance, when we posted this agenda, we already had people calling asking, when is it going to go into effect, and is it going to be retroactive to my situation, back in May or what have you. So you're going to inherently impose more workload on staff by doing this because it's just going to invite people to do it. Now, I understand the rationale behind it. I get it. I guess I sometimes wonder a little bit too about, given the purpose and function behind continuing education is to ensure that, providers are competent and skilled in what they're doing. Are we kind of undercutting ourselves there and our CE if we say, well, yeah, but for a little bit of time, it's okay that you continue education. There's some optics of that kind of trouble me a little bit. So I wanted to throw those out there so that y'all could discuss that, the optics. And then I'll just ask, please keep in mind that what you're doing here is going to increase the workload on us because it's going to have to be staff that process this stuff. It really, functionally, it won't work if it has to go to the boards or to the council. So
Darryl, what do you suggest?
well, I don't know that I don't know that I have a solution to it. I guess when I look at it, I'm like, y'all give them 2 years to do their continuing education. And most of the continuing education can be done online. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. I know at Psych Board, it can be done online. I think LPC, it can be done online. Jennifer, I'm not sure. I think it's the same with y'all's.
It can now. Yes, it
But
can now.
Tim, currently I don't know on your rules.
Yes.
My point is if you give them 2 years and it can all be done online, is there really a need for this, or is there a need to run the risk of increasing the workload on staff?
Especially when there's a backlog already.
Yeah.
I guess one question I would have about that, and I certainly want to be sensitive to that issue, Darryl. Is it less of a load to accept, to have a rule like this and for staff to look for extraordinary cases? I think with the MFT board, we're looking at a handful of requests that we've had over the, in recent years. Or is there the potential, if we don't have something like this, then there's the potential for a complaint to be filed or a complaint to be opened up by the board because they didn't finish their continuing ed? No. I'm trying to figure out what helps that process be most efficient.
Yeah, I'll talk about that in a minute, because that is a good point.
Okay.
If you don't have your continuing education, we're not going to open a complaint on you. Your license will be delinquent. Now, you can't practice on it until you get that CE done, but we're not going to be opening complaints on people. We used to do that at the psychology board, and that was a horrendous workload.
Right.
Because you were just opening complaints and then dismissing them, and it was just this gigantic nightmare of a paper shuffle. We did away with that, and that helped tremendously. And we also changed the way we viewed CE there. We viewed non-compliance as disciplinary. Now we just view it as a condition of renewal. And that is the way BHEX rules are structured. It's not punitive if you don't do it. It's just you don't get your license isn't active. Now, another thing that I want to point out, especially to those listening, is I think a lot of people, if you're renewing your license and you're like, well, crud, I don't have all my CE, so I'm not going to renew yet. No, go ahead and renew. Go ahead and pay, because you can go ahead and pay and then not get dinged with a late fee. And then just after the fact, if you go take your CE, then you can, then you could come back and say, okay, now I've got my CEs. And I can do it. I think that's the way we've done it here at Psych, and I think that's the way it's going to continue under BHEX. So hopefully I didn't just tell you wrong, but I'll visit with Jenny and make sure. But
that could be on the frequently asked questions on our website at some point.
Yeah, but my point being is I don't want people worried about, oh my gosh, they're going to open a complaint against me. No, we're not. Now, I guess if you practiced on a delinquent license and we found out, then there might be there could be a complaint that gets filed. But I mean, candidly, that's pretty rare from what I understand. I can't even remember when I signed the last complaint against a psychologist or somebody over here for practicing on a delinquent license. It's just rare. People just don't do it.
Let me echo also that you've got 2 years. You can do it almost all online, if not all online. We have phenomenal conferences in Texas that people can go to and get their CEs. If it's your livelihood, I don't know why it's not a priority. And there are safeguards afterwards. You can still remain licensed and get after that. But I don't know why anybody would actually take that risk. So I don't see increasing the burden of workload on staff when this is something that can be done certainly online, and you've got plenty of time to do it.
Now, I will play devil's advocate for just a minute and kind of talk in favor of the rule for a second, because I can envision I guess the lawyer and the pessimist in me views most people that I've encountered that psychology board used to have a policy similar to this. And we would have people ask for stuff that was clearly not within the purview of the policy. And I spent a lot of time writing letters having to articulate why they were being denied. And that's just a giant time suck is what it is. But where I can see a rule like this being beneficial is if you have somebody that suffers from some kind of god-awful medical condition or a car wreck and they're down for 18 months. You know, in the pre-online days, I could absolutely see the utility of a rule like this. I guess it's kind of up to y'all to decide. If somebody gets hurt 6 months into this renewal period and, you know, because money is going to the doctors or what have you, get the need for sympathy in that. So I want to make sure that I'm arguing both sides. I'm giving y'all both sides of this thing to be fair here. So I can see a scenario where something like this would be useful, but I can also see where it could be a Pandora's box that we could be opening. So
Daryl, my question here is what is someone's license lapses, for lack of a better expression, how complex is the process for renewing?
It's not complex.
In the case of 18 months, as you just described, I would imagine that a license isn't canceled, but it does lapse. So, you know, is that something that would be applicable?
They would be licensed during that 18 months, because what we're talking about here is, let's say I renewed my license, and then 6 months after that, I get in a car wreck, and all of a sudden I'm in a vegetative state for the remainder of that 18 months. Obviously, I can't work. I'm broke. The wife and kids are living off of, you know, savings or what have you. I technically still have my license. My license is active all through that renewal period. On the expiration date, it then becomes delinquent. Now, your question was, how easy is it to return it to active status? It's actually very easy. You can do it online. I mean, if you can attest that, yeah, I've got the CEs, I've got the human trafficking prevention training, and I've paid my renewal fees, then the system will automatically renew it. I mean, you don't even need really any human interaction with the agency. It's designed to be kind of contactless, if you will.
Got it.
The thing up there would be as if you're subject to a CE audit, but that's a separate issue. Set that aside. So it's very easy to do, is what I'm trying to say.
Thank you.
I'm just going to throw this out there as what other agencies are doing, because I'm a licensed real estate broker. And what the Real Estate Commission does is, if I don't have my continuing education done at the time of my expiration, I can pay $200 to defer it for 60 days. And that's like that's my last extension. But I'm essentially buying an extension from the Real Estate Commission for $200. And I can still practice. I can still practice real estate, but I can't go to day 61 and do real estate. Then I would be practicing without a license. If I don't pay the $200, if I go past my expiration, if not done my continuing education, then I would be breaking the law. The other thing, though, is that it doesn't actually, Daryl, you said something that's slightly different for the Real Estate Commission. I can't actually pay my renewal until they have my continuing education. And that's all done electronically when I take it from whoever the provider is. It within 24 hours updates with the Real Estate Commission. So there's some other mechanics there that wouldn't exactly work with us, but that's what the Real Estate Commission does.
And I may be wrong on that, John. I'll check with Jenny to see, but I know in the past I have told people, and they've been able to in the past, go ahead and pay the renewal fee so that they didn't get dinged with the late fee, and then later on submit their CE hours. And that might have been people who were under audit, so I may be confused there, but I'll check on that.
I think that's right, because remember, our payment system is different than our licensing system right now. And I guess if that ever changed, then they're not necessarily married right now. So that's an interesting idea that John is bringing to the table about having a fee for that grace period. What kind of work would that put on staff? And maybe that would deter people from using this unless they really needed to do it.
Yeah, I guess the immediate thing I thought of when he said that is if you're dealing with somebody that's had a catastrophic medical condition,
it's true.
I'm gonna feel like dirt taking money from them. So yeah, it would be a good deterrent, but if your focus, if what you're trying to do is help people who've had some kind of medical catastrophe, I don't know.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with Jennifer and Daryl. Yeah.
I mean, and if we did that, I would have to pull this down because I have to go back and figure out how would we tie that. That'd have to be tied in with the fees in some way, shape, or form.
We could take a year to study, were this to pass, we could take a year to study what kinds of things have come up. And if once a pattern is established, maybe reconsidered at that time. Any other board members council members have comments to make?
I'll just, my only thought is in terms of the creating the additional work, it is sort of a Pandora's box. I think the way this is written and the way, again, in my experience with the real estate commission, there's no discussion and it's just, here's 60 days. And because I don't want to have staff or Daryl having to make all these thumbs up, thumbs down calls
And it's certainly
ad
not
nauseum.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other discussion? Do I hear a motion one way or the other regarding the proposed change? No motion?
I would just make a motion to leave things as they are. And, you know, they got 2 years, they got online. We've made all kinds of concessions for CEs. And like I said, we still have fantastic conferences people can attend. So I don't think it's that broken.
There's a motion. Is there a second to Steve's motion? And that is not to include the recommended change based on this discussion. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion before I call for a vote? Okay, then all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Same sign.
Aye.
The motion passes with 3 votes in favor of not including this and 1 vote against.
I will say I am going to, I'll just kind of on my own keep this issue on the radar. Your idea, I hadn't thought about, you know, tracking it over a period of time to see what's happening. So I think it probably would be a good idea if we visited this thing 6 months to a year.
Months, maybe, and that makes a lot of sense. Let's see what.
Revisit it then when we got some data to back it up, or if it just turns out we're getting people that are stricken with it between now and then, we can always do it before then. But I think it's worth revisiting at some point down the road.
I agree. Thank you, Daryl. And thank you, Jennifer, for your graciousness.
My apologies. I wasn't able to record the vote.
The vote was
Would you like me to call roll for the vote?
No, that's okay. Steve Christopherson made a motion not to accept the recommendation. It was seconded by Sarah Abraham. Those in favor were all except Jennifer Smotherman. Jennifer Smotherman voted in favor. Does that sound okay with you?
She voted against the motion.
Right, thanks.
Thank you.
I'm tripping over my words. That means the coffee's wearing off. Thank you, everybody. The next item is on number 10. It's from the Texas Board of Examiners of Marriage and Family Therapists. And the changes being considered were published in July. So let me look. Daryl, will you go over these rules unless there is a member of who is the professional member from Marriage and Family Therapists? It's escaping me all of a sudden.
That's me.
Cheers, mother.
Oh, that's you.
Why I'm pointing.
Hello. Oh,
That's me.
that's great. Are you ready to talk again, Missy?
Sure, absolutely. Daryl, do you want to go through this? I don't want to belabor these longer than we need to. So I'm going to let you, if you're okay with that, say what you feel like needs to be said, and maybe Patrick can assist us through this process as well.
Sure. I'm not going to go through the rules line by line. Here's what I would remind everybody. These are rules that originated with the Lmft. These rule changes originated with the Lmft board. They came up to the council at probably the March or May meeting, I can't remember, we proposed them. They were published in the Texas Register. We received public comment. The rules and the public comment went back to the LMFT board after being reviewed by the governor's office. The LMFT board then recommended this rules package with changes from the governor's office. My point being is this thing has been vetted by the LMFT board twice, the public, the office of the governor, and the office of the governor's regulatory compliance division. So they, you know, unless we want to keep beating on this horse, which I don't really think there's much of a need to do, unless anybody has any questions or concerns, I think they're ready to adopt. And I'd emailed out some draft language to help y'all, because one of the rules we're actually having to withdraw because we're going to propose it anew as a separate rule. So I've given y'all some draft language of what the motion, how the motion would need to read if you want to adopt them. And of course, the public comments are in there as well.
Okay.
Do we need to do anything with the item B and C now, or does that motion include A, B, and C?
No, those will be separate. We'll take them up separately because they are standalone.
Okay.
So this is 10A, number 1, 2, and 3.
Exactly. Do I hear a motion to adopt the LMFT rules under agenda topic 10A?
I would like to make that motion. Or you can, Steve, go ahead. Okay.
No, go for it. It's yours. Take it.
All right, thank you. Having been recommended by the LMFT board, I move to withdraw Rule 801.204 as originally proposed in the July 10th edition of the Texas Register and adopt the remaining proposed repeals and rule changes published in the July 10th edition of the Register with the changes recommended by the Office of the Governor.
Do I hear
a second?
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. The motion passes unanimously.
Congrats to the LMFT.
Thank
board.
you.
You were the first to get your rules under executive council structure.
Yes, thank you guys. Thank you for that.
Sure. Item 10B, review and proposal of changes for the licensing of military service members, military veterans, and military spouses.
So that's the one that we just withdrew.
Correct.
And that went, that went back down to the MFT board, and we came up with some new language, which you guys have there. Daryl, is it important? I don't know if that language can be shared so the public's able to see.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's probably easier for them to see that and instead of me reading through all of it.
Okay.
It's 11A, right? 10B.
So basically there were, if I remember this correctly, we've worked on these rules for so many meetings and months. It's hard, it all comes together in my mind. But if I remember it correctly, the language that had originally been proposed, there was some concerns from the governor's office that that language did not meet the intent of the legislature. And so we took that to heart and we worked on this language here. And basically what this is doing is saying, this is how, these are the accommodations that will be made for licensure for military applicants, people who are in the military and their spouses.
Right.
And so that's in that page. 11D is probably the most relevant, that says for an application for a license submitted by a verified military service member or military veteran, the applicant will receive credit toward any licensing apprenticeship requirements except an examination requirement.
Right. So we're not, by way of statute, we are not able to give that exception for examination. And so the other thing I think to point out about these rules is that we have the same process in place already by way of rule for people who are licensed in another jurisdiction for more than 2 years, 2 or more years, but right before they're moving over to Texas, and whose license are in good standing. And so instead of and that's worked really well at our board, instead of reinventing the wheel, we are applying that to the military personnel. And then the only issue that we've had is that people who are coming in and they don't have licensure, because oftentimes that happens with someone who has been in the military, they haven't needed that in their role over there. And so we have this item D in the rule that allows our staff to look at, and our board to consider the experiences that they have in the military and how to apply those. We've already been using something like this in licensure of military applicants, and it's worked really well.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, do I hear a motion to one way or the other regarding this proposed rule change about licensing of military services members, military veterans, or military spouses? Need a motion.
I would love to make a oh, go ahead, Susan, go ahead.
Okay, I'll make the motion.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. The motion passes unanimously. C.
Thank you.
Sure. Licensing, I'm just saying, do you want to do it or not? That I shouldn't even be saying you're welcome. Review and proposal of the new rule for licensing of people with criminal convictions. This is a revised version of the same rule that was returned to the board for further review and consideration at our June 16th meeting.
Right. So, yes. So this was a rule that you sent back down to us when you guys looked through all of our rules. This is the one that you sent back down to us for more work, and this has been reviewed by the governor's office, and it has been approved by the governor's office. And I'll also say, for folks who are listening, and also for you other boards, as you're working through this process, Patrick and Daryl provided us with a 5-point test that is actually listed in statute, and really helped us walk through that. And so we can considered each one of these items through that 5-point test in statute. And we believe that they've fit that test, and that these are going to be good rules that both support the public, that protect the public, and that also allow people to be able to work who are appropriate to be licensed and working.
Good, thank you. I thought it was really well thought out myself. Is there any other discussion?
The only thing I would add is that the Lmft board put a lot of work, guys, into this, and this, it went up and down the chain a lot, but I mean, there's a lot of man hours from those board members on this. The good thing is, I think the governor is going to want to see a very similar measure of rule adopted across the board by all the boards. So Patrick and I will be getting with the other boards on that. But the good thing is, Lmft board's already done the work, so it becomes much easier now because we can just copy their homework. But anyway, right. We'll be working on that in the future, revisiting the issue with some of the other boards.
Terrific.
They've done the work and they've cried the tears. This one was hard. This one was hard, but I am really proud of my board members, and I'm very appreciative of Daryl and Patrick and those. There were, I think, multiple people in the governor's office who looked through this as well, and very appreciative for their guidance through this, because this was probably one of the hardest sections of rules that I've ever been a part of writing, you know, and I've done this for a long time. So thank you guys for helping with that.
Thank you, Jennifer. Your work on all of these things has been just extensive. Is there any other discussion? And if not, could I have a motion to approve?
With appreciation for the work that went into this, I move we accept it.
Second.
And moved in second that we accept the changes as recommended. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. The motion passes unanimously. You know, I don't have a hammer this time. I'm sort of sad. On to row D. We're just tracking right along. And this is the schedule of sanctions. Daryl, you want to bring that one up?
Yes, ma'am.
I know you like it small, but I think it needs to be bigger because I can't read it. Thank you. Okay. Yep.
So we took a look at this schedule of sanctions. If you guys would remember, I think we worked on this several years ago. And then BHEC looked at this also back in June. And our board, as we looked at it, we began to understand the impact that having the warning letter in the schedule, the impact that might have on enforcement. And so in order to strengthen the enforcement process, while also maintaining due process for people who are in this complaints process, we are recommending these changes. It should be noted that there is still a policy in place to direct staff to when to use warning letters, when that would be appropriate. Remember, in that those initial levels of complaint review. And so we feel comfortable taking this out of rule and putting the use of warning letter in policy and out of this rule, but in this schedule, starting at that reprimand to support a stronger enforcement process.
And so then this is a little counterintuitive for me. I just want to make sure that I understand. When you look at the different levels, the level 1 is the most severe, and the level, I guess it goes up to 5, is the least severe. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And a probated suspension, could you explain to me, since I'm not a clinician, what is probated? Basically, you're on probation, like when you're suspended from
Yes.
school. Okay, got it.
Right. So typically and certainly the lawyers can answer this better than I can, but typically when we issue a probated suspension, we have recognized certain severity level, that the violation is a certain severity level, and that person needs to be on a suspension, but we want them to be able to continue to practice with certain protective measures in place. So oftentimes a probated suspension will have them under ongoing supervision. They may, if they have a certain issue that they need to be working on themselves, perhaps that's part of the probation, continuing education, whatever it is that's going to help remediate the problem is typically built into that probated suspension.
Is this normally?
Daryl, if y'all,
I think also
is it on the website?
Yeah,
this is right.
There's a time frame that goes with that
2 years,
too. Absolutely.
Okay.
Right.
Is this
and
normally
that time frame goes with that. I'm sorry, Gloria. The time frame also usually fits the severity as well. So we're thinking about how long does this person need to be under probation before we feel like they're able to go out and safely practice completely on their own.
My question was, is this kind of thing available can people look this up on the website other than in kind of going through texas.gov and looking for it? Is it normally on anybody's website, any of the other professional boards?
it'll be in our rules once it's adopted. We're proposing it here today. Once it's adopted, it'll actually be in the rules. So yeah, it'll be on it'll be, you can access it through our website. We're also going to do PDF rule books for each of the boards that contain both the council's rules and that particular board's rules. So it'll be in that rule book.
Right. I love the way it's separated. I understand. So this is the minor OCD in me, but I'd love to see it by level as well as by rule number. You know, what kinds of things would earn a reprimand or would result in a reprimand? What kinds of things would result in probated suspension? I think it's important for the public to know as well as for the clinicians to know.
We can maybe do that in a separate document. I don't want to do that here because that.
I agree.
Timeline of proposal.
Yeah, I didn't intend it for here. I'm sort of thinking ahead based on what this board does or doesn't approve. You know,
It also should be noted that this was created originally with two purposes in mind. It is helpful for the public to be able to see what the outcome would be and for licensees to understand what the outcome is. But it also was created to address a backlog that we had several years ago in the complaints process. So we changed that process, and the board, all of the mental health boards, created a schedule of sanctions that we gave to staff to be able to apply at that first level of review. Mm-hmm. And this has worked. This is another one of those changes that we made as a result of Sunset Review. And I think that it's worked very well. We've seen that backlog come down tremendously. And so I understand what you're saying, Gloria, and I think really it also might be helpful to consider, what does staff need, you know, and we certainly would need to hear from them if they ever need clarity or changes in the way that it's structured.
I will, Patrick, you tell me if I'm wrong, but just from the experience over at SOA, I can tell you that ALJs, judges, are going to like a chart like this because it's very easy. When you're talking about this rule violation, skim down there.
Right. Got it.
Yeah, that discussion. I would agree with that. They stick to these schedules of sanctions, and they'll usually look at them per rule number. So one of the things to say is, yeah, this is highly utilized by ALJs when you go to administrative hearings and those sorts of things. And as a little bit of also background, in the statute, each board is required to send up a schedule of sanctions for the council to adopt. So we're required by law to adopt a rule like this. One of the issues is that some of the other boards had these in their policies, and so we moved those policies into the rule. And as I was going through them, the other boards still have in their rules warning letters and conditional letters of agreement, but those were all taken out of the actual schedules so that they're a separate instead of the actual schedule of sanctions. I can go through the numerous problems that would be caused by having a non-disciplinary sanction in a rule violation where it just causes a whole lot of issues. And so this addresses that issue where we've now adopted this in the new rule, but once it gets adopted, we'll propose it with these minor changes to take out those warning letters and conditional letters of agreement. So they can still be utilized. They just won't be a standard sanction that an ALJ will then look at and say, I'm going to have you go to trial and then issue a warning letter after that whole hearing.
Any other discussion? I think that this looks like a great tool, not only for everyone involved in the examination process, our staff, the providers, the ALJ folks, but I really love how clear it makes it to the public that we are attending to the different things that sometimes go wrong. I think that's so important. So thank you so much. If there's no further discussion, I'll entertain an emotion one way or the other for approval or rejection of this proposal.
So moved that we approve.
Is there a second?
I second.
Second.
Any discussion? The motion is to approve as submitted. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 I can only see the screen, so I'm not sure who all said aye. Any opposed, same sign? And I think it was unanimous.
Thank you.
Terrific. I kind of lost my place. What number am I on, Daryl?
11.
11.
That should move us on to 11.
Good. We may be able to have lunch after the meeting if y'all are willing to push through. Number 11, item 11 is consideration and possible adoption of rules recommended by the Texas State Board of Examiners of Psychologists. You want to pull that one up, Daryl?
It's a pretty lengthy document. It's 200 and something, almost 300 pages.
Then don't pull it up. Someone want to summarize this? Susan, you want to summarize this? Or Daryl, tell us what's happening.
Again, a very simple.
Yeah.
Thanks. Very similar to the LMFT rules. These are rules that were originated. They have to originate with the psychology board, just like the LMFT rule changes we talked about earlier. They originated with psychology. They came up, were proposed. They went to the governor's office. We gathered public comments, sent that back down to the psychology board. There was actually only one public comment that was made on this. And the psychology board is making the recommendation to the board to adopt the rules as is. Now, the problem was, if you'll recall in my initial email to y'all and as it stated on the agenda, at the time I published the agenda and sent these materials to you, the Office of the Governor had not completed its review of these rules yet. That was completed last night. They've made a few suggested changes, which are not substantive. They're very simple changes that we can adopt today. So the recommendation here is to adopt these rules as recommended by the psychology board with the changes of the OOG. And I had sent out some draft motion language for you as well, because like the LMFT board, I think we have to withdraw one rule in here as well, or we're declining to adopt one rule. I'm sorry. Not that we're declining.
Is that 465.5?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Do I have a motion to adopt TSBEP rules under 11A?
I'll move. Having been recommended by the TSBEP, I move to adopt the proposed repeals and rule changes as published July 10th edition of the Texas Register, with the non-substantial changes indicated in the summary of changes provided to us by Mr. Spinks, but we will decline adoption of proposed rule 465.5. And further, as a part of this motion, I also move that the council instruct Mr. Spinks to meet with TSBEP at its next meeting to assist them with developing substantive changes in those rules identified in the summary document as requiring substantive changes.
Thank you, John. That was
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor to approve and repeal as proposed by John. Is there any discussion before we proceed with the vote? There being no discussion, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Same sign. The motion passes unanimously.
I would personally like to extend a thank you and my personal gratitude to the governor's office if they're listening, because their general counsel and our policy analysts worked on this stuff in the midst of the pandemic, everything that's going on, and the hurricanes. So guys got some priority treatment. And I just wanted to thank them, because they worked their tail off to get the rule review is not an easy thing. I mean, as we can all attest to now, and they're doing it for I don't know how many boards, a lot, but they pushed through it last night for us. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Yes.
On item 12, there are no proposals from the Texas State Board of Examiners of Professional Counselors just yet. Neither have they been published or reviewed. So I believe that we'll wait on this to maybe put it on the next agenda.
Correct.
Correct?
Yes, both the LPC and the Social Work Board rules are kind of in the same boat right now. We're waiting to get, their boards haven't met yet to review the public comments we received, and we're also waiting to get feedback from the governor's office on those rules. So
then for items 12 and 13, can we put them on the next agenda?
Yes, they'll be put either on the next agenda, or we may have to call a special meeting to get them addressed, because I don't want to let the rule packages linger. If all we're doing is kind of like what we've done here today with the Lmft and TSP, there's no reason we couldn't tackle that in 30 minutes.
Okay.
So
Sounds good.
I'm going to try to fast track that.
Thank you.
And the LPC, we meet on September 11th. So just for clarification.
Yeah,
Can I just ask a question before we leave this? Go ahead, Daryl, though.
I was just going to say, we can, Steve, I think we've already sent Christina the public comments we received. So y'all will definitely be able to review that. I just don't know that the governor's office will have been back yet. So that it may require kind of an emergency meeting for y'all, or a meeting on short notice for y'all. But
we can do that. We can do that.
Yeah.
I just have a question, because we were talking about things that are not and that word, John, you struggle with it too. I always want to say substantial, but it's not. It's substantive changes. A lot of the changes are going from will to shall, correct? Okay.
Correct.
Can you just, Daryl, just because I need to hear this a couple times, will you just tell the difference about what will means and what shall means? Why does change occur so often?
Well, it's when I was talking with the governor's office, they like to see the term shall, because it's not descriptive. Will is a descriptive term, whereas shall is a prescriptive term. And so when you write rules and statutes, you're supposed to use either prescriptive or proscriptive language, not descriptive language. And so that's why we're switching the wills to shalls. It doesn't change the effect of the rule. If shall was good enough for Moses, it's good enough for us. I don't have any problem with making that change.
Okay. I want to make sure for the public as well as licensees that they understand that, since that does happen a lot. So thank you.
Yeah.
You're telling us that it's legalese. When you say shall, it means we're doing it.
Exactly.
We'll do that. Okay.
And I would also point out that a lot of those shalls are shalls that we have to do. So it's kind of a good thing. The public, they've got something that says, well, look, your own rule says thou shalt do this. So that's what you want. You want to be able to hold the government accountable. So
hey, you're going to like that. Thank you for that extra explanation. Thanks.
Yes.
Any other discussion?
I have one quick question. Yes. When does the social work board meet again?
We meet the 11th.
Both of you are meeting on September 11th. Wow. Our staff is going to be working overtime and double time to make those meetings happen on the same day. Thank you.
Tim and Chris aren't getting a Valentine's from us this year. I'll say that.
Wow.
We don't know how we're going to split Patrick yet, but
I bet he can do it
till he gets there.
I just feel the mommy in me starting to talk about work-life balance. But I'll skip on to the item 14, the report from the Ad Hoc Fees Committee.
Go ahead, Daryl.
I was just going to say, John, Jennifer, one of y'all jump in here. This is. I'll let one of y'all do it.
So we've discussed this. We've got a letter going out. Daryl, I'll put you on the spot. Did you send that yet, or are we doing that soon to the stakeholders?
Yet. I haven't heard back from two of the committee members yet. I need to hear back from them before I
Okay. Okay, so we have a draft letter going out to stakeholders, and the discussion the discussion has been making sure that if we're going to talk about fees, stakeholders are involved in that discussion. And we're going to be sending out a letter inviting key stakeholders to take part in that discussion. Part of our internal discussion was just making sure that we gave enough time to respond, that we didn't play hide the ball or like, here's a letter, give us your input in 5 days, and thanks for not getting back to us. So we're not doing that. We're going to make sure we give everybody enough time. Obviously, we're open to comment from the public on that as well if somebody felt like they wanted to participate who didn't get an invitation. But that is the latest, and anybody else jump in if I've missed anything.
I agree with everything that John has said on this. So we're in the process of getting that out, and hopefully we'll have more to get back to you with soon.
Thank you. Then we need to add this to the next agenda as well, Daryl?
Yes, ma'am. That one will be on the next agenda.
Item 15 is discussion concerning the potential impact the COVID-19 pandemic may have on future council and board meetings. I think everyone can see that Zoom is working quite well, especially as more of us figure out how to work it. So I think from a board and council level, we understand that this may continue for a while, unless some sort of threshold changes. But I think we're in this for the long haul, which is a shame, because surely it's so much nicer to meet the folks that are participating face to face, and to read each other's body language, you know, even to hug each other at this point. I'm ready to hug perfect strangers. So other than that, how is it is it helping, hurting? Tell us about how it's working for the staff. I understand that the board is doing okay, but is there how are you all doing at the staff level? I know that you're distanced, you're not in your own offices. Everything okay there?
You know, it's actually, I actually like it. The one downside to it, and I'm really hoping y'all will, I need y'all to be honest and just tell me if you like something or don't, but the one downside to it that I haven't been able to figure out yet is how you handle the meeting materials. You know, this time I tried sending them to you guys in separate files. I don't know if y'all like that, if you don't like it. I personally like it, but I can see where it can be, you might not like it. So if you've got any bright ideas about how to handle the meeting materials, I'm all ears. I'm certainly willing to change. As far as the convenience of it, the thing I love about it is, like, when if we have to have special meetings for this council or for social work or LPC to get their rules package, it's easy to do. You slap the notice out there and you guys show up on Zoom and we can knock it out, you know, on an afternoon, on a Friday afternoon if we had to. So that part is just invaluable to me. The public participation part, I'm looking at, guys, right now we're at 50. Earlier, we almost had 90 attendees watching this thing.
We're at 102.
Yeah, well, counting y'all, I think it probably would be, but we've never had that level of participation in any meeting that I've ever been at the psych board. I mean, we're kind of blowing everything out of the water here as far as public participation. It's easier for people to talk. The Q&A part of it is a little unwieldy to me. I'm not a big fan of the Q&A during these because it divides my attention. I don't have anybody else that can do that unless one of you guys want to volunteer to do it. Like right now, I was sitting here typing a response to one of the questions, but that part's a little wonky and unwieldy to me. But I like the Zoom. I wished I could figure out a better way a good way to handle the meeting materials. I've looked at those software services called Board Docs. I'm just cheap and I don't want to spend the money on it. Is the problem. I guess if we had, 1,000+ page board packets all the time, I probably would. I know, Ms. Fletcher, Tamala Fletcher, y'all are looking at doing something like this over at TDLR, right? Are y'all looking at using some other kind of a service?
We're always exploring opportunities to better serve our commissioners. So Board Docs, a lot of other services that we're looking at, but we send our packages to our commissioners in a portal and through Dropbox materials. So. Okay.
So they're kind of doing it like we are. I think Tamala uses a PDF file, and then they can, one single PDF file, and they can access it through that. But you tell me.
I found the individual, at first, actually, I was a little overwhelmed. And I actually called Daryl right before the meeting and mentioned that I was overwhelmed. Once he told me put them all in a folder, they're ordered by number, I was able to open each one individual while minimizing our speaker screen. And I thought that was easier, actually, than when we had the iPads. So I couldn't always find it. The other option is hyperlinks to each PDF in a single file, but that can be a pain in the butt. Oops, sorry. I have used on another board a program called Board Source, and it's not too bad, but I wouldn't spend the money on it either. I think this works and everyone can organize it in their own way.
Yeah, I like it better too because it was labeled, it was easy to open. I just have an iPad. So while we're at Zoom, I'm looking at those documents. I think it's more organized and easy. I always go for the easy way.
Me too.
As long, I didn't mind the single PDF, but as long as, and I didn't mind how they were sent out this time, as long as the titles of the PDFs is in a way that I don't have to like jump around, as long as I can work down my list, it worked great today.
Yeah.
It's also really helpful how you have the numbers coordinated with the agenda items. And so
Yes.
like you're saying, once I moved them into a folder on their own, which is what we do at board meetings anyway, in our flash drives. But once we did that, it organized it. And so I'm just following along on a computer screen here. So that was great. I think that was great, Daryl.
And I'll just add, I like the 00 for the agenda because you do have the other pieces reflect what is on the agenda. So I appreciate, I know that's a lot of thought that went in it. And I just think you made it easier for us to do the part we need to do, and that is reviewing the documents. So thank you.
One thing I struggle with is how do I take notes on kind of what y'all are saying, what my orders are when I come out of the meeting. I'm spread between this screen where I'm watching y'all, and whatever rule I've got up here that we're looking at, and then my notes on the desk. I haven't figured out a good way to do that yet because annotating what's on the screen, I don't know. I'm learning as I go there. But
could a member of your staff join you to take those notes?
Well, they're next door taking them probably now, but
yeah.
But I'm old school. I like to take my own notes. The old trial lawyer.
Okay. Any other comments on item 14? I'm sorry, on item 15 about our organization. I think it's working very well. Hey, wait,
there?
Oh,
sorry. Go
we're
ahead.
still on item 15, right? Sorry, I apologize.
So we had a special meeting about our pandemic, about the plan for, how are we going to go forward and all of that. Is there anything from that meeting that we need to follow up on now or in the future? Are we on track? Where are we with that? Because we addressed this pretty thoroughly in our last meeting.
Yeah, well, the big takeaways from that July meeting were run all those traps with ASWB, which we've already talked about today. And then Tim and I and staff, we've been sitting down trying to figure out how do we tackle this supervision plan backlog. And so we've got a few ideas. We're going to try to kind of give the social work board a spectrum of ideas and solutions. That way they can pick what they think. They can pick from that or develop their own, if they've got some other ideas. But we're trying to bring a couple of choices for them, and we'll do that on September 11th. But remember, the choices of how to deal with that supervision plan, that has to originate with the social work board. We can't start that here at the council. So that has to originate with them. That's why we're going there first. So because it wouldn't do any good for me to go, well, this is what I want y'all to do, because it'd be illegal for us to do it. So.
And in terms of meeting face to face, then we'll wait for guidance from the state, from the governor's office, or from executive orders. But for now, I think this works real well.
Saves the money, Zoom saves money.
You're right.
Hey.
There's a lot of discussion going on right now about kind of returning to work, what staffing levels are, what they should be in the agencies. I will tell y'all my philosophy on it is I'm kind of letting staff decide whether or not I'm not making people work from home, but I'm not making them work in the office either. My stated goal, and that it'll carry over after September 1st, is as long as the work gets done, I don't care where you're doing it at. Now, I don't want a cattle call in the office. I don't want everybody in here. But it just hasn't been the case. I I've let psychology board staff kind of decide what they wanted to do, and we've certainly not been crowded or violating the 6-foot social distancing stuff. So, I mean, I'm just going to continue on with that because it's worked. And another thing that we have to, I guess as a dad now, I'm more aware of it, but you got to pay attention to your folks that have kiddos that are in school. You got to do something with them. I know Chair Smotherman, I know she's got little ones at home and has to work around that. So that's a very real issue, and I'm pretty sensitive to that. I get that. So I'm not opposed to even if somebody just has to bring a child up here, given the social distancing that we have, it just doesn't bother me if they need to bring a kiddo up here for a little bit. I'm fine with that. Probably wouldn't want that to be an everyday thing, but one of the things we talked about on that ED call the other day, one of the other pluses to that is if you got trouble with internet access at home and your kids can't do their schoolwork, bring them here. They can do their schoolwork while they're sitting here on our Wi-Fi, and you can knock out work here. So that whenever I tell people that we're trying to think outside the box, this is what I'm talking about here. We're trying to adapt to this new environment we're in. So.
And I think that's probably the key to success. I commend you for your leadership. Right now, I think our best leaders are the ones that are going to be flexible and compassionate without sacrificing excellence. But I'd also caution all of you who are leaders, and this will be the mommy, but that work-life balance is so important to our own mental health. And we need to be models of the people that we represent. That having been said, I think I'll sign off for a massage after the whole thing is over. A massage I really can't afford right now. Okay, so any other comments with regard to this item? I think we'll be able to wrap up before 12:30. Okay, Daryl, thank you so much. We know that you have a brand new baby, and so I hope you're getting rest, because I'm sure sleep deprivation is still a part of your everyday life. Not fun. Number 16, is that where we are on number 16? Current or future issues that might impact the profession or the agency's regulatory functions. That would be probably someone with more content expertise than I. Does anyone see anything on the horizon that we need to pay attention to? No.
The social work
really, that's the,
oh,
go ahead, Tim.
I believe the social work board issues are out there, and we're actively working on them. So I think that's all from the social work board.
Susan, you've been quiet.
Yeah. Oh, how unusual that I'm quiet. No, there really isn't anything to report. I think that our board members are all contributing, and we're on task for what we're supposed to do. We've had a big 3 years, and even though there are things that are going on right now, they don't feel urgent. They feel like things are moving along in an efficient manner. So thank you.
Good. Steve, John, anything on your end?
Sure. LPC board meets September 11th, and the only reason we couldn't have our rules, right now is because we had scheduled this meeting further out. So I think we got some minor stuff to clear up. I don't see any big issues with that, and I think we'll be able to report nothing but good news next time. Everything seems to have been pretty seamless, and I will just put the kudos where the kudos go. That's staff working together, staying in great communication, and making this thing a whole lot easier for us to do. So September 11th should be a good day for ourselves, and certainly I think the social work board too.
Anybody else? I'd like to say that I've never served on a state board like this before, and I'm so impressed with each and every one of you, and I'm learning so much. And I appreciate your patience with me. And I did not refer to notes about the language for making motions this time, so I'm sort of proud of myself there. If there are any special recommendations for the agendas for the next council meeting, anything that we want to talk about?
Madam Chair, if you don't mind, I don't have an agenda item for future meetings, but I believe this will probably be my last BHIC meeting. My time on the social work board is coming to a close, and suspect sometime in September I'll be released. And so I think September, 16 years for me, so it's probably time for someone else to come up and take the opportunity to work for the social work board and protect the public. But being that I believe this will be my last meeting with the BHIC, I want to thank everyone for all of the hard work and all the dedication and the involvement. And I want to certainly thank Daryl for everything that he's done and worked with the BHIC, but then also with the social work board. So I just wish everyone the very best as this comes live September 1st. And I really appreciate all of the camaraderie and collaboration with the great work that's been done for this board.
We're going to miss you, Tim.
Thank you for your service, Tim.
Definitely.
I think we should vote on that because I don't think that's acceptable. Tim, I'm sure it's going to free up a lot of your time and your contributions are noted. So thank you for letting us know so we can tell you that.
Right, right.
That's also the same, I believe, for Steve Christopherson. Right, Steve? Are you you're rotating off? We think. Yeah.
Depends on the call.
That's right. So we're waiting on the call, and that's the same for me. And it's been a joy and an honor.
Okay, wait a minute. That's three of you.
Yes, yes.
Right.
All three of us are being released at one time when we get the call from the governor's office. But I have been so grateful for the opportunity to be able to serve all the way to transition. That it was so exciting to work on this from when it was just an idea and a possibility, and then seeing it go all the way to transition, and to know, the legislature does not create new state agencies very often, and they created this for us, and then they definitely don't give folks a year to do it. And so we've like everyone has said, our staff and the partnerships with other agencies and organizations have just been outstanding to get us to this point. But that being said, when we do get that call, my board has already appointed my replacement up here on BHEC. And so I hope that you will welcome Dr. Ken Bateman. In my absence, he will be rolling on. And I believe that you will absolutely enjoy working with Ken, and he's going to do a fantastic job on this council. So
Jennifer will miss you. Steve will miss you.
I will miss you.
You won't be gone forever. We'll still call you.
Yes.
And we know how to find you. Thanks to everybody.
You never really leave state service. Just
to all of the folks who joined us today, thank you so much for sticking with it all morning long. I still see that there are maybe 40, there have been 100 at once. I want everyone to, especially those of you who are struggling with issues out there, I kind of want to echo what Susan said. We are paying attention. We hurt for you when you hurt. And when things are out of our hands, at least I probably lament that they are not in our hands, but there is a process, and we can't override those processes as much as we might want to. That doesn't mean we don't hear you. That doesn't mean we don't care about what's happening to you. If anything I've learned is that these government boards look like we're just a boatload of bureaucrats, but in the short time that I've served, that's not what's in these folks' hearts. And I'm sure privileged to be working with all of you and to be able to respond to the needs of the public. So thanks so much. We are on it, and this is officially one position for Daryl on Tuesday instead of 2. So thanks for everything. Tamala, you're very quiet out there, but don't think we don't notice all the help you give us. I know that when Christina are probably off, and And Jenny's probably running to stay in place. So thanks to Jenny and Brenda, Wendy, the whole gang. We really appreciate you. And September 11th, I hope we'll take a minute to pause those we lost, for those we lost so long ago on that particular day, but I look forward to seeing you all very soon. If there's no other business or recommendations for the next council meeting, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
I'll second.
Thank you all. Daryl,
Thank
thanks so
you.
much. I think the meeting's closed.
Thank you.
Daryl, please stay
you,
well.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.